For the 260th time, we are live. What's up, Dan? It's Thursday night. We're live. It's just after 9 o'clock. We're getting started, and it's Gun News Weekly. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. Ross is here with us tonight. What's up, Ross?
What's happening, brother? Good to be here. Another Thursday night. Hope everybody in the chat. If you're not on the chat over at YouTube, get on the chat at YouTube. It's a bunch of fun. Thanks for the guys that are there. Let's do this thing.
You got it. What's up, Googler?
Not much. Just pulling some last minute stats.
Cool. Keep us on point. Ghost is in the house. What's up, Ghost?
What's going on? Thanks for having me tonight.
Appreciate you being here. Our old buddy Eric's in the house. What's up, Eric?
Not much. What's going on, guys? Thanks for the invite.
Good to talk to you. Thanks for the good wishes over the last couple weeks. And I know you got some opinions on all these topics. The Tactical Leprechaun's in the house. Clover Tech. What's up, dude?
Hey, Tech. Doing well. Hey, guys. And chat. Howdy.
I know your engine's been going since this shooting happened here in Parkland, and I know that you have perspective because you've been talking about it quite a bit. So appreciate you being here. Brian, also back from the tropical island of Costa Rica. How was it?
Oh, dude, it was amazing. Thanks for having me. Just trying to get life back to normal here. A lot of stuff to take care of around the house and things.
We know it's not an island. We're just kidding, just for the record. Good to have you.
I know. I got the joke.
I know you. Appreciate everybody tuning in. Appreciate Lanzang Tactical as always. And also, we needed to talk about and throw a shout out to TrueSpec this week. Comfortable gear. Check out TrueSpec at truespec.com. Who else did I need to yell about? Check out Onnit. Go on over to funkertactical.com. Check out the Onnit banner. Click on that. Go check out all that stuff. Improve your life. Get fit. And while you're at Funker Tactical, read an article, leave a comment, share something over there. Ross, what are you drinking tonight?
The same thing I always drink.
Right on.
Fat tire.
I'm sharing a statement because I guess it's what's that? You're drinking bourbon?
Yep. High West.
I got some Sierra Mist on melted ice. Some Gatorade. I think that it's been, I know it's been 2 weeks since the thing that shook up my entire family, and it is a shakeup. And Ross, you asked me, is it back to normal? Is it just back to normal? And no, there's still a lot to happen and to go as just the basics of getting through the beginning of this process. And now you got all this political stuff going on, et cetera, et cetera. And I couldn't be the guy that jumped out and said, wait. I've got all these opinions on these gun things while you all people are all obviously reacting with all of your emotion. Let me tell you what you really need to know. Let me give you all the facts. Let me tell you why I carry. Let me tell you about, how you can carry. Let me tell you about the different laws and how things apply and really what you should know versus all of these things that you've heard. And Google in the pre-chat was talking about how he's overheard conversations. Brian, I'm sure you have, being in Florida. And it's just people that now have it's topical down here for sure because of all the political back and forth, all the different things that are being proposed. And obviously, once again, the charge of media that has this cast of young adults / children that are willing to talk, wanting to talk, and looking for change because, again, it's still emotional and they're still, in my opinion, in a lot of pain. That being said, I'm listening to both sides on all topics. And I think I'll give him full credit for it. Paulo wrote this up on Facebook this week, and he tagged me in it, and I read it, and I fully agree. The annoyingly vocal minority, the extremists, those who choose to take an immovable hard line, step aside. You do not represent us. The majority, the fluid, those willing to build bridges of understanding, those seeking solutions without an agenda. This is not about guns, religion, or politics. This is not about any one thing. This is about everything. Step aside, make room for us. And as I was looking at that and reflecting on that, that's what's been sticking in my head. And I've been talking to my kids about this. It doesn't matter what the issue is. You have all these people on one side that are very vocal about their absolute yes or no. The other people on the other side of the argument. And really, we all know that there should be some sort of happy medium in the middle, but neither are willing to budge. And I think we're all watching that right now. And everyone's, what's your opinion? What's your take? Where do you stand? I said it last week. I still believe in your right to have the weapons of your choice to go against whatever may be out on the street that some thug can get, et cetera, et cetera. I believe in all of the amendments, not just a specific one. I believe in the Constitution, but I also think that, again, as it hits home, would it really be smart for us to completely ignore every aspect of it? The guns, the safety, the mental health aspects, the safety of the schools, the mental health aspects. Would it really be smart of us as reasonable adults to just stick a hard line one way or the other, knowing that if that's all there is, and that's the only fight you choose to do, one or the other, nothing's ever going to change? Nothing would ever change. So I'm not saying give up, give in. Gun News Weekly. We've been talking about these stories. We know about the evil in this world. We know that it's your responsibility to take care of your family. It's your right. We endorse people getting trained and having the right mindset and then the right tools and the ability to take care of themselves. So how do we fix this? It's the name of the show. Before I talk about what it's been like here, do you guys feel like I'm way off with these statements? Or do you feel like it's time to have real conversations as responsible, sound-minded adults to get to a solution where liberties are not infringed upon, yet there is some sort of security that helps save lives?
I don't think we've come to a point that we can actually sit down and have a conversation. That involves defining some type of a baseline, and most of the sides that sit down are so staunch in what they believe or what they've been told or the facts that they have on hand that it's hard to establish some type of a baseline to even start, a productive civil conversation.
I will also follow that with only horrible leadership takes away from everybody because of the ills of a very, very few. There has to be truly common sense. We have to look at things that are actually going to help prevent the problem. We can't just look at one specific thing because you can't pin it on any one specific thing, but we can certainly look at what isn't working and change it. You know what I mean? Or try to change it. Right. We can't go in with the biases. We can't go in with the biases that we have today.
Okay. Well, let's have some of those conversations tonight. Let's have some of those conversations tonight and see where it goes. And thanks everybody for jumping in on Facebook. Appreciate it. Thanks, Jeff. What's up, man? What's up, DeClan? Happy birthday, DeClan. One of our longtime listeners, DeClan's having a birthday. So happy birthday to that guy. Ross, drink one for him. Chug it. Can you do it a shotgun, Ross?
No, man. I'm past my 20s. I hate to admit it. Like, I know you can't tell, but I may be a little older than that, but I could certainly have one for our friend Declan.
Well, stick with us because we're going to talk about the latest details of this situation here. I'm going to give you some perspective from here. And then I'm going to have, before we get into those possible fixes by all of us, we can have a conversation about, again, the guns, the safety, the mental health. I'm going to read a conversation that I had with a local mom in Parkland offline, like after a Facebook post in November. And I think that that's going to set the scene to kind of talk about where we should go from here. The dog is crushing a bone. If you hear something in the background right now, she is just, I don't know what's up. I'm going to have to take her out after. So anyway, let me tell you. So Sunday, well, let's talk about the story first. It's maddening thinking about what it must be like to be one of these parents that lost someone, hearing these details about failure after failure after failure from government officials and other people responsible for keeping the school safe in general. It's unbelievable. It really is. When you talk about the FBI tips and the specificity, say that word, specificity. That still's not it.
Specificity?
Thank you.
Specificity.
I was using a C instead of an F in there. Sorry.
You were close. You got it.
How specific that tip was at the end, the most recent one that fell on deaf ears at the FBI. The amount of, in my mind at this point, cover up from the BSO, the throwing of responsibility, the lack of acknowledgement of responsibility as a leader, the cowardness of the officer and the other officers who now it turns out some of the details coming out, they didn't go in because they didn't have their body cams on or they didn't have them on them. And that somehow had some sort of a don't go in order. What? Can we get someone in the chat to verify that after Columbine, everything changed? You get there, you address the situation, you assess the situation, and you enter to stop the threat. There is no setup or perimeter. There is no wait.
When someone's murdering somebody inside a school, I think anybody with any common sense would know that you get in there and you stop as quickly as you can what's going on in there.
Well, Columbine was the whole set up a perimeter, wait for SWAT or wait for more heavily armed officers to show up and then go in force. And then after Columbine, it's really kind of pushed through and find the attacker and try to minimize anything that's going on in progress. What's really interesting in this case is everyone's pointing fingers at everybody else of what you're reading up here in New England. And what also is interesting is how much documentation there is. So it truly is, you can truly do like an accident analysis and really go back and go find all the flaws and where the gaps are, as well as the lack of communication between different branches at the state and federal level. Because that's the other thing, is all this information was out there, but it never went anywhere. It stayed in their
never
own
went anywhere.
silos.
Yep. And no one had the power or the wherewithal or the desire to fix it. Real quick, shout out to Dan and Jeff and Dan and Richard and Jay. What's up, guys? Appreciate y'all jumping in, and everybody else that's jumping in right now. Brian, what's up, man? Hope everything's good with you. It's mind-boggling that all of these things fell through the cracks. It's unbelievable. It's unfathomable. And then you have the actual, again, lack of action on scene. Go ahead, Ross.
I was going to say, it's really important to note, Kevin, that I think this lack of people being held accountable for these type of things, I think that is one of the whole underlying reasons that these things happen is people don't feel responsible for anything but their own life and their own way and what they want and how they're going to get it. And I think that's part of this problem. And it shows itself in the officers that were there.
Well, Nick's asking a question. Are you for more stringent gun control since you were affected by the horrific event? Example, raising the age. We're going to talk about that. Stay tuned. The other part of this that's very interesting is if you start learning more, there's this scandal that's unfolding, as they say, where there was an agreement between the city / the Broward County and the police department to not basically have the police arrest kids on campus. Let the campus police handle it. Let the school handle it. Don't get the police involved.
So that they could get more funding for the school.
Correct. And so
now, was that just when they were on
federal,
campus?
It's federal grant money that they wanted to get.
Students. Any student that ran into trouble would be dealt with in the school system, as opposed to within the law enforcement system. That's why they were at his house 39 times and never did anything about it.
It said there's a fundamental shift in the entire dynamic of how teenagers would be treated when engaged in criminal conduct.
Was it also a perception thing where if police were to deal with a student on campus, you know, the school wouldn't be seen as safe as it is, or like, is it
They
like
were excusing misdemeanors, and then they started excusing different things like assault, armed robberies, and other things. So unlawful conduct was being filtered by the responding police department. It didn't get out of the school grounds. It's part of the story, I guess. But because what it does is it shows that. And again, there was a video of this guy getting in a fight, and I know he got suspended, and I know he came back with a backpack and had knives, and they're saying bullets. I heard it was casings. But regardless, that's part of the story.
The fact that they are doing this for the money says everything you need to know. That they are overlooking serious mental health issues in an attempt to get an extra couple of bucks out of the system. It's horrendous, Kevin.
Let's watch this real quick. I think it's part of the discussion.
There was an agreement between the school system and the local law enforcement. It even has a name. It's called the Promise Program. And in a nutshell, the Promise Program is a collective agreement between law enforcement and the school to limit student arrests. Crimes that would usually be handled by the police, like minor theft, marijuana possession, and assault, would be handled at the school level. That way, nobody has a record of it. The school doesn't lose funding and reputation, and little Johnny doesn't have anything on a record.
There you go. So, sorry about that. That is part of what happened. And that sucks because they could have stopped this guy. In theory, that's part of it. It's part of the problem, I think.
I agree with you. We're putting down puzzle pieces at this point. And
Well,
that is a significant part of the problem.
If it's part of the problem, how come the cops went to his house so many times?
They went to his house, but
nothing ever happened when they were at his house.
They didn't act on it. And the other problem I have with the BSO is when this happened, when it first came out, and it all came out, there was the sheriff of the BSO acting like the police representative, when in all truth, it was 23 kids and people that were treated. 20 survived. They were all treated. The entire building was cleared by the Coral Springs Police Department. That's been verified at this point. He doesn't want the videotapes coming out because it'll show a bunch of cops showing up. It'll show his department doing nothing, and it'll show a bunch of people running in saving lives.
Yeah, it'll show Coral Springs going in right in front of these guys as they've been sitting there for 4.5 minutes.
We don't know how many minutes. That's been... It's definitely the one. They're saying that the security guard that was on site definitely did not go in a timely manner. He didn't enter the building, or he entered at the stairwell, but he's been witnessed by other kids.
So I think
it's disgusting. It's just disgusting.
I think you can point that back to training or lack of training or poor training standards. I think if people aren't trained properly or trained with those scenarios, be it force on force or the right type of training to deal with an active shooter, they're not going to know what to do, and they're going to stand outside. The fight or flight's going to kick in. So I think what this is going to do is it opens up a huge, basically it opens everything up to let's examine everything that's going on, and you can track all these defects and you can track all of these issues and find out if it is fixable. Is it fixable at a policy level, at a budget level, or is it at a personnel level?
Dude, that's a completely dysfunctional police department.
Let's listen to the sheriff afterwards and what his opinion of his officers' actions were.
As I said, I'm the sheriff. My name's on the door. The people responsible are the ones who took the calls and did follow up on them, as it was with the FBI, as it was with any person. Leaders are responsible for the agency, but leaders are not responsible for a person. I gave him a gun. I gave him a badge. I gave him the training. If he didn't have the heart to go in, that's not my responsibility.
Thoughts on that one?
it's his responsibility. He got him the training, and he got him bad training. It's his.
Yep.
If his name's on the door, like he said, it's like the buck stops here. It's his.
The results of the people that you supervise are directly your responsibility. End of story.
In every other business / organization in the world, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm telling you, Kevin, it's complete lack of leadership. The guy showboats
big
himself.
words.
What?
Jay keeps using big words in the chat, like I'm going to repeat them with like malfeasance and things like that.
It's horrendous. It is horrendous,
dude. It's scary. It's scary because if it's here, it can be anywhere, and it probably is, and that means it's back to the people to make the difference and make some changes and start looking at how to fix this. Because if you can't rely on the public officials, if you can't rely on the Federal Bureau of Investigation to help, if there's some sort of thing that you don't know about that says if they have body cams, they can't go in. If your sheriff deflects responsibility, that's some scary shit that needs to be addressed.
So wait a minute. Let's put the puzzle pieces where they lay here. He's an elected official. The sheriff is an elected official. That falls on the people of Parkland or Broward County. That rests on those people to know who they're electing into office.
Yeah.
That's
where we stand. There's a lot more to the show tonight, so stick around.
Hey, Kevin, there is a question out there that, and I don't know the answer to this. Hottie was asking, is this an agreement, a policy between the school and the sheriff or the police, or is this something that's normal for Florida, or what? I mean, what is this agreement with the sheriff and the school and all that? I mean, is that between strictly that school and the sheriff's department, or is that a policy countywide, or what?
I'd have to look deeper into it, but Glenn Beck has that report and he gives the name of it, and someone can Google it. Like,
I got you. Okay.
Just right before the end of the show. Googler, can you verify who the two parties are that made that agreement?
Yep, I'll find it.
Thanks. All right, so let's talk about this past week. A lot of this show is about, again, just being an average family guy and dealing with life in general and all that stuff. So Sunday, they invited everybody to come back to the school. Now, when I tell you the school has handled this thing, and I give them an A+, the school, the administrators, the principal, awesome. They really have done an incredible job, and I give them a ton of credit. We went back on Sunday with the kids, and in essence, it was just open campus. And what they had done is they had set up a fence around the building. Now, keep in mind that building is it's the tallest building there. But they put up a fence around that building, and they lined that and a lot of the other hallways with banners and signs from all over the country. There's boards up over some of the windows that were shot out, but they are the same color as the paint around them. And all of the parents and all of the kids basically wandered around the gym, or the cafeteria had school supplies open for everybody and snacks. And a bunch of people got together. My kids got together basically with their fourth period teacher in that drama department. And she explained to all of us, all of the parents and all of the kids, what happened that day from their perspective. From we were hanging out, so-and-so was performing, we were working on a set over here, da-da-da-da-da. Here's what happened. And I saw the room where all those kids went into, and they were lucky enough. It wasn't just an average classroom with a door. There were other offices and other areas that they could get to and further barricade themselves. And as a parent, how do you have these conversations with your teenagers? I mean, we got through it. But just thinking about it right now, watching all of the other parents and all of the other kids, you're having 3,000 kids, all of their parents, a lot of grandparents, brothers, sisters, all that stuff. Back in the place where this horrible event where many people saw things happen that they'll never forget. The big hit is the trauma dogs. These dogs are awesome, and the kids love them, and they're apparently helping a lot. Go ahead, question.
I was just asking, Kevin, do you think it's fair to tell your kids or to reinforce the fact that the world is a dangerous place? I mean, I understand the tragedy.
There's so many questions. What are you asking? Do you explain to them that there's still danger out there, or do you try to make it a bubble again?
You just explain that this happened because the world is a dangerous place, and there are unpredictable people, and we have problems that we can't solve, but that
Ross, this is your perspective of it, and I understand it, but you have to understand there's hundreds of parents there that aren't gun owners.
No, and I'm not talking from a gun perspective, Kevin. I'm talking, I mean, from a wide perspective, not even guns or anything like that. You could walk out and a bus of 17 kids could plow into a tractor trailer and they'd all die.
Ross, all of their friends were shot with a gun. The anti-gun thing, the never enough thing, the march, the kids, the voice that they have, the millions of dollars they've gotten from celebrities to back their effort. This has become, for the most part, let's get the school safer, but let's talk about these guns right now. They've gone to Tallahassee twice. They've gone to DC. They've been on television. There is no denying what the argument is on some of this. And we're going to get to that in just a minute. And I know what you're saying.
Do you think that, and I said this before, I praise the fact that these young people drove to Tallahassee and made their points. I get that, and I applaud them for that, because that's not easy for, especially for someone who's been through that, to go up there and talk to the government officials. But do you mean, and this is just directed towards you because you're more in there, do you feel that these kids are being exploited possibly by the media, by the celebrities, by adults that are pushing their agenda?
I do, but it's tricky. But it's tricky because I know some of them. And I'm wondering what some of their parents are doing and what the decisions that are being made. I'm watching it and I'm shocked. But it's someone's kid. It's someone's 17-year-old. It's someone's 16-year-old. It's not my position to rage on the internet about these kids and the shit that's coming out of their mouths. And there is a lot of crap, but they also have a lot of valid points and a lot of, again, reason to be upset right now. However, to answer your question, I absolutely think that I absolutely believe that once a certain group was identified as eloquent, smart, able to be in front of camera right away without being given a chance to, again, I think the cameras were flushed in front of people and they said, I'll talk, and they talked. And then from there, I believe that there was a lot of forces behind the scenes dictating a lot of not only where they were and who they were talking to and what was going out there, but a lot of the message, not word for word, but big picture. Yeah, I think they've been exploited. I think it's despicable, to be honest with you.
I would like to think that, there's good that comes from every bad thing that happens in life. And to kind of jump on what Ross was saying is, it is a hard lesson to learn, and we're not trying to demean anything that's happened, but the world is an evil place. But maybe this opens their eyes and says, life is precious. Some people are faced with tremendous things in their life, and they come out on the other side and say, I'm going to live every day as if this could be my last day, and actually learn how to live life. And I hope that maybe this is something that can happen to these kids and say, you know what, I had friends and family that were taken from me, but I'm going to live my life every day like it's my last and truly live free. And that's what I hope happens.
That's a very positive thought, and I appreciate it. And again, realize there's still a memorial. They're still walking to a school where there are 17 memorials now with piles of flowers and candles and things that are so big right now. You're wondering where are they going to put all this, and at what point are they going to have to clean this up because it's so out of control right now. With signs, with again, a lot of propaganda, a lot of messages, a lot of things that are out there. It's still going on. And I think there's still a ton of time before people all go through the different stages. I'm speaking freely tonight. I'm not choked up at all. I went through that grieving stage. I went to these funerals. I got angry. You know, I've gone through a couple of these phases of and now I'm in that acceptance phase. And now I'm back to, okay, so what's my role here? What is there a reason I'm here, 260 times with Ross talking about these stories and getting to the point where it hits so hard home that we have to have, again, these conversations. So that's where we are. I'll continue. And then there is a lot of more conversation because I want you guys' input on how to fix this. Back to school. So we went on Sunday. Teacher told us a story about how everything happened, came home, off Monday, Tuesday, went back on Wednesday and Thursday, and they'll have another half day on Friday. On Wednesday, it was unbelievable. When I tell you there had to be, by a guess, 400 to 500 uniformed police officers from all over the county, tri-county area, I'm assuming. I mean, anyone that could have a uniform, the K-9 units, the SWAT unit, everything, all waiting, waving, saying hello as you pulled in through the car line with these kids, as the kids were all walking up. Basically, they made it so that instead of 3 or 4 ways to get in the morning, there was 2. So they were funneling everyone to 2 different areas. The driving in the parking was a zoo for the kids. I mean, it was just a mess because of how many, 1 full lane on each side of the school's taken out with media trucks. And then everyone's driving their kids back to school. Everyone's walking their kids up to school. It's not just, it's different. I'm going to read something. Actually, yeah, I think this is probably an appropriate time. Let's call, is it got to be half past the hour? It's way past that. I'll read this. I got 2 things to read and something, and then some things to share. And I actually got this from somebody else. People have been giving me credit. This is someone named Dave Shelley who penned this. Here's what you didn't see in the hundreds of news stories and reports about the kids returning to Stoneman Douglas. You didn't see the relief in their faces of the students, as they entered the campus and realized it was still home. You didn't see the teachers and the students embracing, not as teachers and students, but as family. You didn't see over 50 support dogs working miracles with students and teachers who were just overwhelmed. I was told, I'm going to go off script here, I was told that several kids who had not expressed emotion, whose parents were really worried about them, when they spent the time with the dog, that's where it all broke out, and that's where they started talking. That's what was the key that turned them into it being able to start expressing themselves. And that's what he wrote here. And I mean miracles. You didn't see that out of 3,300 students who filled the hallways before the tragedy, 3,100 showed up. You didn't see that out of the 230 teachers, only 3 were unable to return. And I am getting choked up because that's the 3 that were killed. Man. Thought I was going to be brave tonight. I'll keep it going. You didn't see that every high school principal from Broward County was on Stoneman Douglas campus at 6:30 to help greet the kids. And so were the principals from the feeder middle schools and elementary schools. 75 district employees did the same. 130 counselors showed up. You didn't see that the students, some who've witnessed the murder of their classmates and friends just 2 weeks earlier, had the strength and stability for many of the teachers who had witnessed the same. You didn't see the students who gathered around Building 12 to read the support banners from other schools and cried, not out of grief, but with the understanding of how much they were loved by the extended family that is the Broward County public school system. You didn't see the resounding defiance of the student body, faculty, and school staff that announced to the world that they would not live in fear, they would not be looked at as victims, and they would honor their fallen family members by coming in this morning and making Stoneman their home once again. None of it was in the news, but it all happened. It was hopeful and uplifting and one of the first steps, and it all happened. So when I hear from colleagues and friends from around the state and the country about how amazing our kids have looked on the TV the past 2 weeks, I can only imagine what they would say if they saw what wasn't on the news. I need a second. Excuse me.
Oh, what just happened?
I just need a second. Give me a second.
Yeah,
right back.
you're all right. Composure, huh?
Yeah, I'll get it.
Yeah, you're all right, man.
I know.
It's still raw, man. It's only been 2 weeks.
It's Ross. It's these kids. It's all of the other faces. It's not the fucking people you see on TV. It's all of the other kids that are dealing with the fact that, I mean, Ross, you have a niece that is going to spend her freshman, sophomore, junior, and senior year going back to the place where this happened. It is unbelievably hard to deal with. And that's so why I say, how do we fix this? It's more than just one thing. I'm sorry about that. I got a little choked up there. Anyway, thanks to Dave Shelley, because it was one thing on my feed that got shared a gazillion times, and a lot of people talked about it. Whew. So, that being said, what's crazy is we've all thought about how we fix this. You know, we've all thought about some of the solutions and some of the things that could be done after after any of these school shootings. You've thought about it, right?
Oh, I've done a lot of thinking about it. I could write a book on it at this point.
Well, we came up with all those solutions during the different shows we've had.
Yeah, Kevin, but it's so much more than that. It's a political system that got involved 30 years ago and started changing the direction of society. I blame it on the politicians. I blame it on, obviously, I blame it on the kid first. Okay. Honest to God, personal responsibility, man. It has got to be the forefront of everything we talk about is personal responsibility. Second, I think the political class, because of the social engineering involved in how they harvest votes, I think is directly responsible for actions such as this. And whether that be through the legalization of abortion, and I'm not bringing it up this because I'm anti or for or anything like that, but when you run these schemes where you devalue life at any phase, then where does value begin? And then it's subjective, and then it's, you know what I mean? It just, if you look at it from a 30,000 foot view, you can't take away from it. But that's just a small part, Kevin. It's just a small part because it's the Broward County Sheriff's Department. It's the school district.
Hold on. I hear what you're saying. We've been talking about the pussification of America. We've been talking about that over the years because we do feel like there's been a lot of things that make kids soft compared to when we were young, which is a generational thing that every generation thinks, correct? But we've been watching things, again, Tide Pods, all that other stuff that you see.
Come on, dude. From the 50s to the 70s, they said, oh, it was huge. And we went through that phase with the hippies for sure, right? But shit got real in the 90s and the 2000s. You know what I mean? It's gone crazy, dude. Society's gone a completely different route. And I think this is why you didn't see it in the 70s and you see it now.
All right. So you're talking about the societal part of this, right?
Yeah, because you could buy in the 70s, you could go buy a gun in the hardware store with no background check and nobody was killing people.
You guys ready to shift gears to the gun thing? I can tell. All right. So I'm back scared. In November. No, this is good. I got it all right here. We got bang, bang, bang. Bing, bing, bing. It's all coming, Ross. We haven't even mentioned his name yet. Big Cheeto head with the flapping hair. Crazy man. For some reason, something was posted and I sent somebody the death by gun control, gun confiscation will be followed by genocide YouTube video expressing that, you know, one of the concerns amongst gun owners is the bigger picture of protecting against tyranny. We're a free country. We're one of the only ones out there, and we have these rights. There's a lot of guns, and one of those reasons is because we don't want to have genocide here. We want to be able to step up if someone gets big and says, hey, we're going to take you out because of your skin color, your belief, or what you're saying, right? In general. And I said something to her along the lines of, I wish there was, and again, I'm talking to a mom of 2. I won't mention her by name. I'm friends with her husband. I've known her for a while, and it's just a conversation that popped up and that went off of Facebook. I said, I wish there was a solution for the USA. I just don't see one. The genie's out of the lamp. The culture and the far right are going to protect the gun rights. She said, I don't think it's wrong for people to own guns. I feel safe knowing that people who are responsible, like you or the police or my husband, have a gun and know how to use it in an emergency. My issue is with untrustworthy people owning guns and how easy it is for them to get. You or my husband would not have a problem getting a gun under stricter laws in Japan. I watched this video as the difference that I see is our government is not a dictatorship yet anyway. So far, we are not preventing religious minorities from owning guns and allowing the rest of the population to victimize them. I wonder if stricter laws would help in this country. I would like to think so, but we have a lot of crazies here, so maybe not. This is a conversation in November.
I just want to say one thing. The Japanese did not say we will not attack the American mainland because of the American military. They said because they will not attack the American mainland because there would be a gun behind every blade of grass.
Stop. We've said this 50 times on this show. Stop with the stuff and all the rhetoric. We're going somewhere else tonight.
It's not rhetoric.
We've said it 100 times. Just because I mentioned Japan doesn't mean you got to interrupt me with another pro-gun stance. We know all of those. We know all the memes.
This goes back to what Clover Tech talked about earlier. We don't have a baseline between these two groups to begin a discussion. You have to have a common understanding, a common goal, and a common definition of terms. We don't even have that. So, and then we've got, this emotional charge that comes from these school shootings, and it's very difficult to get somewhere productive.
Agreed. We're going to get into all of that. I said the laws are there. Murder's illegal. Getting a gun when you're banned due to a felony is illegal. Gangs and felons don't listen to laws. That's what I said to her. She said, do you think that their gangs don't find illegal guns too? They've got to have a problem. Modern society. I give her a few statistics. I talk about the fact that most of the cities in America is where the majority of the murders are. She asked me about ARs and them being used in mass shootings. I informed her on the percentages versus pistols being used in gun deaths in America. Anyway, more irony to the conversation. She said, I don't worry about you carrying a gun. It's the weirdo psycho that doesn't like the type of latte I'm ordering and goes crazy that I'm worried about.
Can I speak to that for just a second?
Yes.
She's talking about, stricter regulations, whatever. So let's look at this from a NICS check perspective. You go in, you fill out the 4473. We all know how that works. And we also know that there are people out there that have slipped through the cracks, so to speak. They, whether it's domestic violence or whatever the case may be, and the paperwork didn't make it up the trail or make it into the right office or whatever, and then they get these guns and they go out and they do bad things. So what a lot of these people, where you can't again get that baseline, is we could have a conversation about tightening regulations as it pertains to mental health, or it pertains to certain people. But the issue is until we can fix the bureaucracy that is allowing leaks in the system, then it's not gonna fix anything, because you're adding more water to that boat that already has leaks. Does that make sense?
It does. I'm going to read one more thing that she said, and I'm going to let one of the dads who lost a kid give us a perspective that I think you might be surprised by. She said, I still believe we have to have more regulation for guns. Again, this is in November. Any law-abiding, nonviolent, patriotic person would have no problem waiting periods for backgrounds, checks, and training classes. Registering a firearm should be standard. There will always be criminals, but let's make it a little harder for them. The fact that we've done nothing as a country and going around the conversation is terrible. More time will pass with nothing done. If every agency improves the area that they can affect, mental health, school policy, school security, gun laws, maybe it will close up the holes in the system so there will be prevention. I told my husband to call you. I want gun experts like you and he to lead this conversation because the anti-gun people are already on board. People that own guns can rationally speak about it and be the change. And again, that was part of the conversation. Crazy to hear. Let's talk about the gun stuff. Background checks. Clover, you just kind of covered it. That's something that needs to be discussed. I think most people agree that there's a hole there. And if there's a mental check thing that doesn't affect the problem there, before I go there, the problem there is all the other laws that are in place. I think that's what you were saying with like HIPAA laws and that kind of stuff. Is that what you were referring to?
Yeah, I mean, that plays into it too. Yeah.
You know, there's a lot of that privacy that people want, and
can't have it both ways.
I think there has to be some answer somewhere, but let's take a listen to this guy real quick.
It's not going to be fixed because I just heard what you said, what you're focusing on. Polarizing this event, the murder of these kids. You're talking about gun control. I just had to listen to you and Governor Scott talk about gun control. Gun control is a big issue. No one in America is going to come together on gun control, Chris. We're here. You didn't say one thing about fixing it. The American people, we could get together on school safety. But when you polarize it, this event and every other media, we don't care about gun control right now. That's a big issue in the country, and you're not going to get everyone together on it. But we're going to get everyone together on fixing our schools. And I just listened to you. So I just listened to you. You didn't talk. You didn't mention one question to Governor Scott about what are we going to do about the security for our children? How are we going to do that? But you're just talking about gun control, which is going to just give you more ratings than every other media event. My daughter's dead. I want to know, our kids are going to school in Kentucky on Monday. How are those kids safe? How about bringing that up to the media? How about bringing that up to Governor Scott? Not about guns. It's not about guns now. Today, it's not about guns. It's about the safety in our schools. And that's what you asked Governor Scott about, and I got to listen to that at my house. My kid's not here because the schools weren't safe. That's the main thing. You go into a courthouse, the judge is safe because they can't get in with a gun. The American people, we just want our schools safe. We don't want to talk about guns right now.
All right.
And I love that. I love that. And he makes a great point about walking into a courthouse or a federal government building. No way a gun's getting in there. So what makes a judge's life more important than hundreds or thousands of kids' life? That's a great point, and bravo to him.
It is.
I mean, so
you're talking about dollars per jurisdiction. You're talking about a bunch of things. When it comes to security, that's a huge issue just under itself. Are you talking about reinforcing and making walls and making gates and making it impenetrable? Are we talking about training people so that if something does happen, there can be immediate action against that person?
Yes.
What are we talking about?
We're talking about having an intelligent discussion on that and figuring out what we will tolerate budget-wise and tax-wise and things like that. We're not having that conversation. That goes back to his point with the basic.
The fact of the matter is that every federal building that they deem requires security has armed security in it.
But you're now comparing federal budgets to state budgets and local budgets.
Even the state buildings. Every state building that requires security.
But what I'm saying is, to have this conversation, is school budgets as it is every year here we hear about budgets having to go up for certain things. So now it's an honest conversation that people are going to sit there and go, how can we have these schools fortified or more secure? Where's that money going to come from? That's going to be the first question
I can tell you exactly where it's coming from. You go and take a look at any budget the U.S. passes at a federal level, and there is billions of dollars that are basically wasted on countries that refuse to repay loans that they owe us. So you don't pay them for whatever we're supposed to pay them for in that contract. Now, here's what you do. Now, because education is basically funded by the state, what the federal government could do is send out grants to each state. Now, each state gets money from the federal government every year. And what you should do is do an incentive-based program. Any state that wishes to pass laws that will help secure the schools more will get a federal grant to help them do so. We have plenty of money that's being wasted in other areas. Let's fix the budget, bring some of those funds, send it to these states that are willing to pass these laws, and that's how you get the money right there.
That's a great idea. Take like 1 or 2% from every department.
Exactly.
Area in the federal budget and send it to schools.
Well, we're going to get to mental health, Jay. We're going to get to mental health. But first, we're doing safety. Told you we're going to cover a couple different ideas. Back to the arming of teachers. I don't think that anyone thinks that all teachers should have to do this, or that any teacher that doesn't want to should have to do this.
I've actually had discussions about that this week with a friend of mine whose wife is a principal. And
all right, you an expert?
He very sincerely thought people were advocating that all teachers be forced to be armed, that a gun be in every classroom. And I can't think of a worse idea.
I think that's preposterous to just about everybody.
I had a conversation.
If you carry outside of school, you should be able to carry inside of school.
I had a conversation earlier today well, it wasn't earlier today, but it's been this week, with the chief of police for the school district, the largest school district in our county. And he is absolutely 100% opposed to teachers carrying any firearms or any firearms at all being allowed in any schools in that district. And he says that's their job as the campus police to take care of those situations.
Well, let's just hope that nothing ever happens in his district.
So Ross, you think that anyone that gets a CCW license should be able to go carry as a teacher full-time, have a gun on them just because they went through the state regulation that they live in to get a license? They should now be able to be around hundreds of kids and understand protocol and no further training, no nothing. They just have a license. Therefore, they're supposed to be a teacher armed, ready to go.
What's the difference between there and in a Walmart with 500 people?
Their job is to teach kids.
If they want to take on the responsibility, like me and you, Kevin, if you were a school teacher, would you have a problem carrying in class?
And you don't think under a high stress area, a high stress situation with hundreds of kids running and screaming and loud noises going off, that you should have some additional training as that concealed carry guy that's in a classroom with kids every day?
I think that's your personal responsibility. If you feel unsafe or you're not going to make that shot, you have a personal responsibility to get good at what you're doing. Nobody should be out there in a Walmart, in a school, on a bus.
So Russ, you think that the school should have no say in this? So if someone has a CCW as a teacher, they should be able to carry in the school, and
if they want to carry, if they feel like that they're capable of doing it and they want to do it, they should be able to do it.
It's not responding to an active shooter. It's the, thousands of days in between there where they're potentially mishandling a gun in a classroom. How many? I'm
worried about the active shooter.
Well, I mean, yeah, but
let's take the active shooter and all this apart. Let's just say, okay, can it not be a deterrent? If these idiots out there that are going to think about shooting up a school or anywhere else know that there are people in that school that could be or probably are carrying, are they less likely or more likely to go to that place? That's my opinion. Let them carry. It's a deterrent.
All right. Even the guys who have carry weapons, even the guys who are gun guys, think about the last time you went to a busy day at the range. How many asshats did you see mishandling guns, doing dumb shit that they shouldn't be doing? And
that's why I don't go to public ranges anymore. Literally.
Okay, so thank you.
Well,
Anybody
have
else?
the teachers have them go through enhanced training if you have to. Get the sheriff's department, the police department involved in training. If these guys are CCW carriers, I'm all for that. I'm saying is there's ways to do this. It's not a black or white, in my opinion.
Ross, I'm trying to get all sides out there. I'm not picking on you tonight. And here's the thing.
No, I just totally disagree.
I've been thinking about this aspect a lot. And part of it for me is that the people. Okay, so where this comes from is I had some guilt. I had to do the timelines under several things after I found out this guy just stood in a stairwell. And I had to know if Kevin, the guy who's got certain things on his person in his trunk, in a perfect situation, could have turned the car around, sped there, made a difference, and got there and made a difference. And the truth of the matter is I wouldn't have gotten there in time. But I say that because I thought about, okay, so what if I had gotten there on time? Right? And now I'm a plainclothes civilian running into a school with 3,000 kids, trying to find the officer to say to him, let's go, I got your back, or just to charge wherever there's gunshots and make a difference. And from that, I started thinking about, well, let's say that anyone that needed that had the background, and I think this is also cultural, Ross. It's a big difference between Oklahoma and New York City teachers in terms of culture, in terms of being comfortable around guns in general. And so I thought about it and I said, so what happened if there was, again, 20 teachers in the school and they all came running to the sound of gunfire with their concealed carry permits to make a difference to save the day? That could be chaos. That could be more chaos than chaos. So my thought was, I would think that part of arming any teachers, allowing teachers to be armed, putting together a small team, creating a security team for the kids, for guarding the entrances during the day, that all of those people would have to have some sort of coordinated high stress training that had to deal with the arriving people that would be there in uniform showing up to do what they should do. That would make sense to me. Not just a bunch of people, because you went and got the concealed carry permit and you're a teacher, now take on the responsibility, no training, no nothing. You just go make that shot. And if you can't, it's on you to go see.
Why is that any different? Why is that any different than anywhere else? Why is a school so different?
Because there are a bunch of teachers. They're all the liberals that you make fun of every week are teaching the kids every week. You think they're going to be go get them mindset, go kill them guys?
I think the ones that do have that will go that way, and the ones that don't. So it's no different than going to Freddy's with your family, dude. You got people there that are idiots who are carrying guns just like you would in a school.
But now
they're responsible for their shots. You know what you're not responsible for? Being their nanny.
Ross, in a school, there are things for fire drills. There are different protocols for all kinds of different procedures that happen. And when something like this happens, there's a protocol for all the kids and all the adults, and they practice it. And what happens on a lockdown, right? That's totally different than them all.
What happens when the parents that carry on your school property show up and there's a shooting? What happens then?
They can, in some cases, become part of the problem.
Mm-hmm.
I think so. Now you have more people with firearms that may or not be trained. Now you have police showing up not knowing who the real shooter is.
Eric, the police are trained to deal with potential concealed carry permit holders.
No,
and they will not necessarily, and they will slow down any reaction that police is going to have to go into the building. But
I heard it directly from the Coral Springs department, the dude that went in. I heard it directly from his interview that they are trained to deal. They are trained to identify and to deal with potential concealed carry permit holders in a situation like that.
So let me ask you this. If a parent concealed carry holder is running into that building and a cop is running in and that cop screams, freeze or drop the gun, and that guy turns pointing a firearm at that police officer at that high stress moment, what do you think will happen?
Well, he probably shouldn't turn towards the cop with a loaded gun. He probably just stop, freeze, and drop the gun.
In every concealed carry class I've been in at Big 3, we have told people that if you have a gun in your hand and the cops show up, you have a good chance of getting shot. So if you decide to help out or try to respond to a situation like this, understand that things may go south for you.
And that's going to be anytime you point a gun at somebody else, things have a potential to go very south with that situation at any time.
All right. So some of the opinions are tonight. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. I was going to say, you were talking earlier about fire drills, you know, and tornado drills in certain parts of the country. Why shouldn't there be an active shooter drill that the school as a whole, including the students, the teachers, if the teachers have carry permits, and let's say that does become a thing where teachers can carry, you have drills on a regular basis so that everyone knows under certain situations. We do fire drills anyways. Why can't we add this to the project and say, not only are we doing fire drills, we're going to do is an active shooter or
lockdowns,
a violent offender or something.
They were been drilling code red drills at these schools for years.
Mm-hmm.
That is part of it. Now they don't have a bunch of teachers that put on a yellow hat and say, I carry concealed. If anyone, there's like no identification of them or anything like that. And I don't think there's that many teachers that choose to carry on campus for fear of losing their job, their pension, and all of those types of things.
There's a rabbit hole that you can go down if you want. Rob C. out the chat wants to know a question for the panel. Should gun-free zones be basically abolished? That's a rabbit hole you can choose to go down. It's your show. Just letting you know.
We haven't even gotten to 21. Christ, help me. Great response, and we'll wrap this up. Hostage situation in Texas church. Guy was tackled. Someone retrieved the weapon and was shot by the police. He said that's how it goes sometimes. That's life. I guess the cop said that. Thanks, Amber. You know, happens. And again, we go down the what ifs all day on that stuff. And I just, again, personally, if we're talking about what are the solutions and what are the different layers we need to put in place, yes, there should be armed people, in my opinion, on campuses where there are, again, the gun-free zone aspect of it. I think we should protect the kids the same way we protect all of those things that we've talked about. And that includes trained people who serve as a deterrent, and God forbid something happens, can help. When you start mixing in plainclothes people whose life career choice was to go to school and take a teaching education, get an education degree to help children learn, it's a different mindset in my mind. It's a different type of person. And to expect them all to do all this, I don't think anyone really does.
I don't think anybody said they all should do it. If you carry outside, you should be able to carry on campus. I don't see what's wrong with that.
Yes. If you're a teacher, if you're a full-time teacher, I think you should probably also have some training that involves all of the other people that are trained and all of the other people that are going to come to the rescue. Now, again, if you're a parent and you're on campus and it's a gun-free and it's deemed a gun-free, it's not a gun-free zone anymore because of some new law, and you choose to draw your weapon and get involved in an active shooter situation, you've made that choice, you've made that risk. I think the teachers, if we're going to give them their responsibility, should have extensive, ongoing, annual, if not biannual, training. And it should include not just guns.
Absolutely.
The other safety part of this, really, when you think about it, Ross, really, when you think about it, if there's an active shooter, the kid should go into the room like on a lockdown. The door should get barricaded. It should be a better door. The kid should have protection physically to stop bullets from penetrating their area. And if, God forbid, that shooter gets in, the teacher should be able to defend them. Yes. But to think that all the teachers are going to go running towards the fire without training doesn't make a lot of sense to me.
You know, the other thing that I think that we don't think about is if they do go down this path and say you have schools that want the option of arming teachers or arming staff. Well, now you got to, from a liability perspective, I can't see schools saying, okay, bring your personal carry weapon in. I could see schools saying, okay, we're now going to have a school armory. I mean, you could even go down that whole crazy rabbit hole as well. From a liability perspective, if that teacher has to shoot at a shooter or an intruder and they miss or they shoot, someone's getting sued at the end of the day, regardless of good shot or bad shot. So, I mean, there's this liability piece too.
But that's going to
At
happen.
that point. But there are also a lot of police departments around this country that can't afford to arm their own police officers. A lot of cops out there provide their own service weapons. So I see what you're saying, but there, you know, if cops are being forced to provide their own weapons, then why can't teachers?
I think I don't know, but it's a good question. But so when you start doing this, I think you start opening these questions and asking these questions.
Hold on, Eric, because they're on teacher salaries. That's the first answer. Talk to a teacher.
Well, yeah, they don't make a ton of money, period. But districts look at, how can I limit my liability? What can I do to ensure that we as a district are safe? Or that, you know, I don't know. Having family who have worked in school districts in the past and seen the back end of that, they want to do whatever they can to make it uniform and simple and easy to have that policy in place to replicate school after school after school.
I agree with exactly what you're saying. I think there needs to be a discussion, and I think that's what all of these ideas are great topics for discussion. The problem is both sides are so emotionally detached from each other. Like Clover said, it's going to be very difficult to start the discussion. Where do you start? But all of these are absolutely valid points. If the discussion of getting rid of gun-free zones or arming teachers and staff are there, then that is part of the discussion, and that's something that each maybe individual school district has to deal with. I don't think it has to be a state or a federal law.
What do you think about providing parents the option to have backpacks with bulletproof inserts in them as part of the back-to-school shopping selection at school?
Great idea.
I've got one in my bag.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, as cheap as that stuff is now. Yeah, absolutely.
I would think so. And then what about training? I've talked to some professionals. There's a couple watching now. And basically the story I heard time and time again, and the frustration that I've heard, is that there are great people out there that have been offering free classes over on the Aperture Fight Focused YouTube page. Go check out Jared. Go check out Ryan and Amber. And they've been talking about this stuff for 6, 7, 13 years in some cases. And they offer it, and the private schools, in many cases, take them up on it. And the public schools, what happens are they'll get a leader, somebody will be interested in terms of a parent, and or the teachers. The teachers are interested, the admin's interested, and then they hit the wall of liability, insurance, and they get shut down. And the training just doesn't happen. Cut it out, puppy. We had some breakup there on Facebook for a minute. We're back. And so that's been very frustrating for people that offer free training and say, hey, listen, in general, and this is what I believe as well. And I think, again, the NRA says something similar, and they say it, and it involves the word gun, and it turns people off as soon as they say that. But when you think about the concept of evil force that wants to attack somebody in any way, shape, or form using any kind of weapon, in most cases, the only way to stop that force is to meet it or exceed the amount of force that it's putting on you. That's how you stop something from hurting you, affecting you, attacking you. You have to attack back. If you just take it, you're just going to take an ass whipping. If you fight back with equal or excessive force, you defeat and diffuse that situation and live another day. I don't think anyone can dispute that. It is what it is. You can't take something that's aggressive and not be aggressive back to it and expect to win the fight. So I think everyone knows that if bad guys are going to have access to guns, we should probably give some of the good guys guns too. Makes sense. How we do it, obviously, there's a bunch of ideas here tonight. Real quick, just to throw it through, not for discussion, but does anyone on the panel not think that there's something within the background check system that exists today that could be better enforced, and or any kind of holes that could be fixed? Take away the mental side, but just the fact that, again, they don't really prosecute when felons try to buy guns, as an example. Is there anyone that's opposed to them tightening up that system as a law-abiding gun owner probably really won't affect you because most of us have already been through those checks, those FBI background checks and all that stuff. Does anyone have a huge problem with that?
What does that do to people in states where marijuana is legal, but it's still legal on a federal level?
Well, you want to talk about marijuana?
I'm just saying, it's on the form.
All right.
So here in Massachusetts, it's legal at the state level. Technically, if you are prescribed marijuana or you smoke it, you would technically fail your background check. Same thing on an SF-86. Because
if you admit it, there's not a drug test associated with it.
Yes, if you admit it, if you admit it on your form, yes.
Actually, the question on the 4473 says, "Are you a habitual user?
Are you addicted to?"
Addicted to. So I mean, technically, you can smoke marijuana and not fail a 4473 NICS check because unless you are absolutely smoking every day of your life and blah, blah, blah. Now, there are people that fall into that, but just because you smoke marijuana every now and then doesn't mean that you should fail a 4473. That's my thing.
The very next line, Ghost, is or an unlawful user of.
That's right. That's correct.
Federally, that's unlawful use.
But I think
federally it is. You're right. And it is you're right. It is a federal 4473 too. So I'm just saying that, you know, they could reword certain. There's nothing that says they can't go back to 4473 and reword it. You know, maybe it needs to be because society is changing.
So that brings up a great point. People who smoke marijuana can lie on the form and buy a gun. So how do we make everybody honest on that form so that we can enforce it?
Got to go to your house and check out your drawers and make sure there's no marijuana.
They're going to have to stick their whole hand up your ass.
Oh,
and now welcome to the nanny state.
Oh my!
Well, I mean, we all agree. Would we all agree that question shouldn't be on the 4473 to begin with? I mean,
yes,
we can all agree on that, probably, can't we?
In a perfect world, people will realize that weed's a wonderful thing for a lot of people. It helps a lot of people that have conditions that they need this thing, the anxiety piece, the kids with different autism and things. It's happening quite a bit. The research is there. It's the most ridiculous, misclassified plant on the planet. So hopefully someday.
I'm not even talking weed. I'm just talking in general. The question of are you an unlawful user of narcotics or marijuana? That's the dumbest question because it's not enforceable. It should say, have you ever been convicted of a drug charge or something? I mean, you know what I'm saying? It's not enforceable to say, hey, you know, if you lie about marijuana, how are they going to enforce that? Like you said, there's no way to enforce it. So if you want to have a drug question on the 4473, then reword it in a way that actually makes sense and is enforceable by law.
All right.
And the fact of the matter is until we can eliminate people's desire to murder other people. Today it'll be the gun, tomorrow it'll be the car, the next day it'll be the knife. Before you know it, it'll be our words to one another. And we'll all be under some crazy guys that we got to stop talking to one another in 20 years.
That's right.
These answers don't work because the solutions aren't to the problem.
Ridiculous. They're not going to get rid of all the guns and then get rid of all the knives and then get rid of your right to talk. That's not going to happen.
The fact of the matter is the root of this problem is that people want to murder other people. That's it.
Right.
How do we work on that? How do we fix that?
That's not what we're talking. We're talking about all of those things tonight. And one of them is there part of people getting guns? Is there a reason? Should we fix any of the holes that are perceived in the NICS checks?
No doubt about it. No doubt
That's
about
the
it.
Conversation.
I mean, look, the military just added 4,000 people into the NICS system that technically shouldn't be buying firearms. I mean, that was some number that was thrown out after the Texas shooting.
I don't think
that was post-mortem after they neglected it for the last 10 years.
But that's what I'm saying, though. So there are holes in the NICS system, and that has to be fixed.
The fact of the matter is our entire bureaucracy is a hole in the system.
Well, that's a rabbit hole in itself to go down, Ross.
Yeah, Ross, you're going big picture and all that stuff when we're talking about specific things.
That's actually
have the conversation about each specific thing, and then we can talk about the big picture at the end. How about that?
As much as we would all like to have no background checks whatsoever shall not be infringed, we all know that in a perfect society, that's not going to happen. we're going to have a background check, we're going to have a NICS system or whatever you want to call it. Like you said, if we're going to have one in place, at least let it be functionable and let it work the way it's supposed to. Let's rework it, reword it, redo the 4473, whatever you want to do. But let's make sure that if we're going to have something in place, let's reword it and completely start over and say, let's do it right.
But then you got to address it also at the bureaucracy level so that, you know, you make sure that all of this documentation on, because I mean, there's new criminals added to the system every minute of every day.
Oh, exactly.
You know, to not slip through the cracks. The bureaucracy that our taxes are paying for needs to work properly.
That's actually.
I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that if we're gonna have something, let's make it work. You know.
Right. Brian, you're the IT expert here. If we can have a system like online banking for Bank of America with all of that data, all of those users, all of that stuff, can we create a system that actually cross-checks everything in real time? End of the day, back.
Is that technically possible? Absolutely. And this is actually where I've made the most progress talking with people that are kind of on the fence about gun control and Second Amendment rights and things like that, because they talk to me because they know I'm a gun guy. Pointing out the holes that have been created in the background check system by bureaucratic inefficiencies or failures is the biggest, you know, inroads I've made with them, because, you know, it's very easy to say, hey, let's fix the existing system before we start contemplating new rules and new laws and things like that, and see how far that gets us.
Well, I think that, like I said, it's one of the aspects of it. Let's open up this can of worms, but we'll have a quick conversation about it all around. The 21 versus 18 thing seems to be pretty hot right now, as a discussion both in states and nationally. And the argument that I hear time and time again that I've tried to dissect a bit because I respect it is the military argument. Everyone always says the same thing. If someone can sign up and die for their country, shouldn't they have the right to a gun to defend themselves, their homes, etc.? And I guess what they're really saying is if they reach that age of 18, whether they join the military or not, shouldn't everyone have the right at that age because someone can go to the military? And so I've been thinking about that, and I had a couple thoughts, and I'm curious as to what you guys think. And again, keep in mind, I get it. I have friends that have had friends that were those ages. They signed on the dotted line. They went overseas, and they lost their lives for the freedoms of this country. And I respect that more than you can imagine. But here was my question. Where did 18 come from? You know, why 18? Why 21? Where do these two numbers come from? What's the real reason that we use them as the standards? And let's go from there. And I started looking at that data. And Google, you looked something up as well today?
Yep.
Generally in 1942, when it was 21 up until we were in World War II and needed a larger body of able-bodied Americans to go fight the war. But up until then, it was 21, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So here's the other thing. When you're 18 and you join the military and they give you a gun, the gun is not yours to take home. It's kept in an armory. You're trained by someone who's a professional trainer. Every bullet's accounted for. As you learn to use this weapon for what it's designed for, you're under pretty much supervision. Everyone would agree with that. That's different than an 18-year-old. That's different to me than an 18-year-old going to the local gun store and playing a bunch of Call of Duty and then just having this gun in his room with no training, no nothing. And I'm not saying 18 is the number I agree with, 17, 21. I don't know. But what I'm saying is I think the military argument is one that we need to really talk about, because 18 is this arbitrary number that we did when we really had a huge war that we had to have this, right? And we had 18 for drinking, 18 for voting. 18 moved to 21 for drinking. It's still 18 for voting. Go ahead.
No, I was just saying that the lack of training doesn't make someone a mass shooter.
I can tell you from personal experience, being a veteran, and I'll take this a different twist than probably what you might think, is this. You said that at 18 years old, a person can join the military. I want to take it a step farther. at 18 years old, a person can be drafted to defend this country. So if they can be told that you must join the military to defend the country, then why shouldn't they be able to defend themselves?
Good
We're
call.
also talking about an 18-year-old person that's obviously been given the legal age, according to our government, to honestly, let's be truthful about it, can decide an election. So if this person is old enough and you know, if you want to call it responsible enough to decide an election, why can't they defend themselves? That's just
you're also talking a 3-year span there from 1821 that you're technically out from under the protection of your parents too, potentially out in the world on your own.
Roger that.
The Constitution.
And it's 17. Let's
at 18.
Well, you can go into the military at 17 with parental consent. Let's not forget that too.
That's correct. But at 18, you can be drafted. You can be drafted.
But that doesn't mean you can buy a gun at 17.
Correct.
That's right. I'm saying at 18, if you can be drafted by the government to defend your country, then why on earth can you not defend yourself?
Hey, look, I gotta take Brian's stance on this. We're gonna shut down the age limit because of 1 or 2 18-year-olds that got a hold of guns and started killing people. We're gonna change that rule because of that. Do we have any more proof that or any more data that says that between 18 and 21, you're most likely to kill somebody with a gun as opposed to after?
Well, let's go. Then here's the next question that I have to pose. If you can't have a pistol till you're 21, why can you have a rifle before you're 21?
No, my question is if
shouldn't it be all one way or the other? Shouldn't we all agree that it should be all one way, 18? All the other.
Yes.
The fact of the matter is
well, never mind.
Go ahead, Brian. Sorry.
No, I was just gonna say, why would you get to vote at 18 and exercise that right and not your Second Amendment right?
You are constitutionally mature at 18, according to our government. You can vote at 18.
Right. You
can purchase a long rifle, and the gun people got a hold of the 21 rule with the pistols because of all the gangs and what have you. The 18 rule was left there so that kids could hunt with their family.
Yeah, the Constitution officially applies to you when you turn 18. You pay taxes. You can vote.
You can use a family rifle. You can shoot a gun.
You just can't own one. You can't buy one.
Buying them and owning them in your name.
Why do you want to take away from a majority of good, law-abiding, learning gun owners because a couple of people went south with a gun who were under 18?
Well, no one said they wanted to. We're having the discussion of why is it 18? What's the difference between 18 and 20? No one's trying to argue from a far left position that it should be moved to 21. No one has said that.
I'm not saying here, but I'm saying in general. You're taken away from the masses because of, and I'm not saying our group, I'm saying that that's what they want to do. They want to change this age group because of what happened with a handful at best of kids under the age of 21.
Okay, that kid that shot up this school should not have had any gun. Rifle.
But that has nothing to do with his age. It has everything to do with his mental.
It sure does. He shouldn't have been able to go into a gun store and buy a gun, in my opinion.
He shouldn't have been able to buy a gun because he was mentally not capable of handling the gun, not because his age says that he shouldn't have a gun. That's a whole different issue, in my opinion.
So
again, that's the mental health issue.
But I guess you could also make the argument, though. I mean, just to throw it out there, that the brain's still developing. So you could make the argument, even though constitutionally you're an 18-year-old and you can be drafted and you can vote, from a mental development standpoint, you don't have the wherewithal to truly understand what you're doing.
You're right. And 16-year-olds don't have the mental capabilities to drive.
Hold on. Everything I read about that, Eric, said not 21, 25.
I heard 25. And that's the research I've been doing. That like 25 is
25 is that number. Yeah.
Is where you mature.
So what you're saying is that back when you could get a gun when you were 12, this shit should have been happening all the time.
No.
And yet today,
it's not.
All of a sudden, we're 21.
No, Ross, that's not even what I'm saying at all. What I'm saying
about brain development, Ross.
This is just.
But you're saying that because of that, you can't own a gun. But we don't have that.
Whoa. You're jumping to conclusions. We're talking as adults about development of people.
And
All right,
Can I
man.
ask a quick question about this then, real quick?
Question.
Can I ask a quick question about brain development? Do we all feel that a 16-year-old has a brain capability and development to drive a car, which a car is probably a lot more dangerous as far as killing more people? I mean, should 16-year-olds be able to drive a car? That's an argument that people make also.
Cars are designed to take people from point to A to B. Guns are designed to do what?
I understand, but if you look at the stats, there are many more people killed by cars than there are by guns.
Oh, agree. Hey, we can go down. You know me. I know all of those numbers, and I know
you see states changing.
Well,
too.
I'm just posing that question because we're talking about brain development.
We're talking about having discussions about how we fix this issue in America. So, yes, that's valid questions, Trey, for sure. And again, valid opinions and valid questions for sure. But Ross, just because we're saying that there's a brain development issue, that there is science out there and there are studies that have come up that people have, again, looked into, and I'm no scientist, but they say brain development, just because you're 18 doesn't mean you're fully capable to make life and death decisions.
But
and then
that
you
doesn't show itself in people shooting schools up.
And then you add in all the cultural stuff we talked about this and last week, and then you add in the mental health piece, and then you add in the psychotropic drug piece, and the next thing you know, you have a cocktail that includes him being able to go at that age. That's what people are saying. That's the argument that's on the other side. That's what needs to be discussed.
Well, I think you would see a whole bunch of 18-year-olds shooting the place up because, as far as I know, anybody can get a gun at 18 right now, and it just doesn't happen on the regular, dude. So to go after that is to assume that because your brain isn't as mature as it could be, that you're going to use that gun in an illlawful way, and that just doesn't 2 + 2 don't equal 4 there, man, because that's not what's happening.
I think you're
99.999% of all these 18-year-olds that own guns don't do shit with those guns. They don't fuck with people. They don't shoot people. They certainly don't go into schools. And to assume that somebody's going to do that because their brain ain't where it should be on the whole scheme of life in general is a ridiculous concept to even contemplate. The fact of the matter is if you want to murder somebody, you're going to find a way to do it, whether it's a weapon designed to do it or not.
Ross is on that far right extreme side that we're talking about. That is
not extreme, dude. You want to solve a problem, you can't look at all this shit that makes no difference.
You're not even letting us have the conversation about age without going off the deep end.
It's not one thing that's going to fix this. It's having this whole conversation and bringing up everything.
Exactly. Good point.
It has to be part of the conversation.
You know, Ross, if you're going to stand on that side and you're going to stand on that platform, then you're saying don't do anything.
No, dude, I think you do things that are going to help the problem. The fact of the matter is that if someone wants to murder somebody else, they're going to find a way to do it.
Nothing with guns. Is that your stand? Nothing with guns. No.
More people are killed with cars every year than guns.
I'm asking you a question that I need you to answer. You're saying that no gun movement at all. No bending, nothing. Just guns are the way they are. Don't fucking change a thing. Wait for the
next. Shall not be infringed.
Tell me what would have fixed every school shooting.
You won't answer my question.
Has to do with guns.
You won't answer the question.
I don't think infringing on our rights as American citizens in this dangerous world is going to do a goddamn thing to have people stop wanting to murder each other. It's just not going to help.
So no movement at all. Don't change a damn thing. Change all the other stuff. Change all the other stuff on the bang, bang, bang. But guns, nothing. That's what you're saying.
I think you can move whatever you want to, but we're constitutionally, we're guaranteed the right to protect ourselves. And you want to take away, or not you in particular, but people want to take away that right because of 1/1000th, 1/1,000,000th of 1% of the population, and people want to start taking shit away. More people are killed intentionally with cars every year than guns, and nobody's going after cars.
Again,
why would you go after the gun? The gun is for a purpose. It kills people.
The gun just shot and killed up another school. So we're trying to figure out how to
No, he
stop
didn't.
it. Yes, it.
No,
A
didn't.
kid took a gun in there and shot people, Ross.
The kid
Yes.
shot up a school.
Yes.
If he drove a car
You
through
did-
the parking lot,
he
and took out
didn't.
20
He didn't use a car.
okay, it's true. It didn't. In this situation, that's not what happened. But you wouldn't consider taking the car
Don't
if he
fucking
did.
ignore it. You can't act like
I'm
it
not
didn't fucking
ignoring it. I'm
happen.
being realistic. I'm being realistic, Kevin.
Being
Taking guns,
absolute
taking
and
all the guns away
hard-headed.
from people will not stop people from murdering each other.
I understand that concept, but talking about 18-year-olds with all the other shit that's going on the list that we're talking about and acting like nothing should be done is not what, again, it makes no sense to us.
I
Makes no
think
sense to
you're
me.
dead wrong, Kevin. I think you're dead wrong,
Okay.
dude.
All right.
So let
All
me.
right. So let me talk to the guy that sold him the gun and see if he feels the same way. Is his opinion more important than yours?
No, nobody's opinions are like assholes. Everybody's got one and they always stink. End of
Okay.
story. The fact of the matter is you take away all the guns and they'll find another way to kill all those kids,
No one's
Kevin.
trying to take away all the guns.
I'm saying if you did,
We're talking
if
about
you could.
trying to fix damaged kids from getting their hands on them. We don't let them get their hands on pistols, yet we let them get their hands on long guns. There needs to be
Everybody
a way to
wants
fix
to blame the
it.
tool. The
They
kid is the
don't.
problem. The kid is the
But
problem.
So here's
check
the thing, Russ. If we
enforcement.
don't have this conversation, guess what? The politicians at the state and federal level will look at the polls that are being put on their desk every day and make the decision for us. They will say 18 to 21 is an easy change. It doesn't impact the Second Amendment because you still can buy a firearm. No one's preventing you. They're just changing the age limit. They'll tie it back to federal funding, like why at 21 years old you're legally to drink because of state federal highway funds.
Hold
If
on.
you don't have
Sorry,
the conversation.
Facebook. If you want to see what's really going on, because it seems to be cutting out quite a bit, head on over to Kevin the Tag Daddy on YouTube or on gunnewsweekly.com. It's there as well.
Sorry, Kevin.
No, you're good. No, you're being correct. The narrative is going to be controlled by the people that are making the decisions on our behalf, right? And who gets voted in, right? And that's based on all of the influences there.
You know, they're going to look at Nick's check. They'll look at age limit. I mean, they're going to look at those things. They're going to go back to Heller, and they're going to look at Heller, and they're going to look at those things, and they're going to
And
see.
none of that's going to solve the killing problem that we have. Not any of it.
And if you're not willing to bend on this issue at all, you're going to get run the fuck over, Ross.
I
You and
just
everyone else that's
want
putting
real
the fucking
solutions.
line in the sand. Every
I
single
just
person.
want real solutions, Kevin. It's not a solution to murder.
Of course, it's not a solution to murder.
We know bad people are going to do bad things, and they're going to find ways to do it. But tonight, what we're trying to talk about is what can we do to improve a situation. There's not going to be a quick fix. There's not going to be a one-size-fits-all solution. But we have to have the conversation.
The most important thing is our elected officials have to have this conversation, and we need to make sure that they understand our points that we want them to bring to that conversation. You know,
agreed.
And I'm not as mad as I'm getting. I'm not saying I'm right. I'm saying it has to be fucking discussed. This draw line and absolutely not. And again, you want to talk about the other stories tonight? Let's talk about how ridiculous these are. Thanks, Mike. You working, mouse? Stand by. Where's my mouse? Uh-oh. There it is. All right. In fact, I'm going to turn off this Facebook one. It's been going for over an hour and a half. So if you want to watch the rest of this, head on over to Kevin the Tag Daddy. We're live on Facebook. We'll finish up there. Sorry. So we all agree on the safety stuff. We all agree on the mental health stuff. We didn't even really give any examples of how to start the mental health stuff. They've talked about creating an app for the kids to be able to report the fact that there's a kid that eats lunch by himself every fucking day. And when they walk by, that he makes gun noises. That makes sense to me. Does that make sense to you guys?
I'm not smart enough to even dive into beginning to start dive into the mental health side of it. But yeah, I mean, we all had, even at our ages, we all had that kid that sat by himself every day who, you know, and I know I'm not saying this is because it's going to sound weird, but the guy that always dressed in black or wore the trench coat. I mean, there are signs that we all had those people, and yeah, they should be saying, "Hey, I think Johnny over there may have some issues," but I'm not smart enough to dive in on how to fix that.
There again, wouldn't you think that if they're getting these social posts where they're saying things like "I'm gonna go do X" or "I'm really thinking about this," and a kid can take a screenshot of it and put it anonymously to a local authority that can then see if it fits into another database that we've put together that checks these things, and if a certain number adds up or something keyword or something, again, they're able to stop people in other countries from doing things from different technologies. Why can't we implore this on the kids to make them use it?
Yeah, there needs to be definite follow-up for sure. I mean, without a doubt.
But then the next question is, where does it go from that initial follow-up? And that's
and where are the resources and where's the money and who has the power to make a decision that a kid needs more than just, hey, what'd you say there?
Well, I think there's probably already a lot of resources and money out there.
All right. Any other mental health ideas? Maybe some big pharma numbers we could talk about for a second.
Shit, mental health. I think if a cop shows up at your house 39 times in 3 years, I think something should have been done. I mean, I just wonder, we're talking mental health. They were given an opportunity to assess this guy on multiple occasions. How much further could they have gone?
My understanding is that the police, they have a very limited role or power that they can do. They can't commit someone for 72 hours for a hold. There's certain things they can and can't do. So if that person isn't exhibiting certain things at the time they show up at the door, no matter how many times, there's only so much they can do.
All right. $278 million spent on big pharma for politicizing and lobbying last year. On both sides of the aisle. I'm pretty convinced that if these things had been around in the 70s and 80s, a lot of my friends and myself would have been put on these drugs to calm us down because we're creative and we bobbed our knee in class because we wanted more to do than just the books work that was given to us that was done easily. I think that those drugs affect kids. Yep. I think those drugs affect adults. I think that if you look at the stats, most of what people like to call a mass shooting in America with a face on it that they've seen on the 6 o'clock news, most of those people were heavily into those. I have not heard if the shooter here was. I'm assuming
those drugs also affect development. So I mean, yeah, you're affecting the adult as well in some instances.
So wouldn't you be affecting a kid turning 18 if he started taking them when he was 14 and 15 and 16 and 17?
Well, sure, you would be affecting him on some levels and at some points. I mean, we all react to drugs and medicines differently, of course. So you can't put just everybody in a box. But yeah, I mean, that could affect somebody up into their 30s, 40s. They may never fully develop certain portions of their brain.
The other thing that I came across on the safety end was the SOSparkland.com. I didn't pull that up again to stand by. Where is that? Did you give me that link? There it is. This was recently Secure Our Schools, our goal. It's a group of concerned citizens in Parkland, the surrounding area, that have come together with exactly one goal: to make meaningful action to improve the security of every school in our nation, starting with the schools located in Parkland, including Marjorie Stoneman Douglas, West Glades, Park Trails, Heron Heights, and River Glades. They want to get approval to bring professional school security consultants to evaluate each school and issue formal recommendations. Work with law enforcement, school principals, staff, and teachers to consider the recommendations of the security consultants and determine the best course of action to secure the schools. Determine a budget for implementing the recommendations, fund the initiative via the school's PTA, and secure our schools. Sounds logical to me.
Can't argue with that.
Yep, do it.
Yes.
And you have to identify problems before you can fix them. It's that simple. So do it.
Guys, the fact of the matter is our schools should have been secure a long time ago.
Agreed. Better than
Absolutely.
they are in general. I mean,
Open campuses. I mean, you look at the way campuses are now. Anybody can walk on or off a campus, get through damn near any door. They're a security nightmare. My kids went to a charter school when they were younger, dude, and it was lockdown. You had to be buzzed in the door. You know what I mean? Nobody was getting in that school without someone knowing they were there. And there were certainly I wouldn't say hardened, but certainly defenses against intrusion. I don't know why more schools don't do that.
Hell, when I was in high school, we had off-campus lunch. We had an hour off for lunch every day. You're letting 16, 17, 18-year-old kids literally leave campus to go eat lunch. You're telling me there's not a security risk there? Looking back, I'm like, what the hell were you doing, you know?
We had that in junior high.
Most of our senior year for that.
So the stuff we're not going to get to tonight, because we're going deep here, go check out California's gun seizure squad and what's going on there. That's a CNN story. GOP ICE's gun restrictions bills at Minnesota Capitol. The Minnesota bills that were proposed were about as far reaching as you would think, as far as it can get. It was take everything back. If you don't turn it in, you're a felon. You can't own them. You can't buy them. If you do own them, you better turn them in or you're going to jail. I mean, it was, and everything in between. Rhode Island governor signs the executive order to seize guns based on people they deem are dangerous.
It's a mighty slippery
That's
slope.
a whole big rabbit hole right there.
I'm not talking about it tonight. We'll figure it out. The other story related to kids that I wanted to talk about is on the Washington Post. Maryland student said he regularly brought a concealed loaded gun to school to guard against mass shooters. An 18-year-old Maryland student was charged with bringing a loaded handgun to school. He told them, the detectives, that he regularly walked around school with a weapon hidden in his backpack or in a holster under his shirt to protect himself and classmates from a possible mass shooter.
How old?
An honored student at Clarksburg High School was arrested on February 15th, had a Glock semi-automatic, said he was I'll get to it. He's a senior.
So 17 or 18?
According to the prosecutors, he said he was always talking about bringing guns to school and saying how he would kill anyone that tried to mess with him. That's so.
See, that's where things like that go wrong, man. A concealed carry is just that. It's concealed. It's not to talk about it. It's not to make a big deal about it. Those guys need to be caught and removed from the situation. You know what I mean?
He also said in a journal, quote, "I might start doing some vigilante operations." In May of 2017, "I don't plan on killing people, but I'm surely going to hit the evil people."
There you go.
Then he wrote, "Sometimes I think I am crazy or mentally ill, but I hide it and refuse to admit it because I know how to cope and blend into society, but it's just so lonely. Oof. I want to kill evil forces," he wrote, "but I die for nothing," end quote. It's an interesting look inside of a kid's mind. Check out that article over on the Washington Post.
Boy, that's a hell.
Are you a little alarmed? I'm sorry. It kind of alarms me that a kid that age is saying, "I want to kill anybody." That's alarming.
17, 18, saying, I want to take. He basically saying, "I want to be a vigilante justice guy."
Right.
Bad people. He's not saying
too much Batman.
He's not saying I was bullied and I want to kill people that are bullying me. He's saying if someone comes and tries to kill us, or if I run into where I can take care of things.
So that's a very interesting. It's a very interesting situation. Now we're in an early phase of what just happened, right? He's made threats on his Instagram or whatever. He's made these threats. At what point is it appropriate to pick this guy up? And
no, it was in his journal, and according to the story, that was all stuff in his journal. According to the story, I believe someone turned him in. Stand by.
So did they take his weapons from him? I mean, I would love to know what happened here, because this seems like
18-year-old with a Glock 19. Yes.
Yes, they took it.
Ross, of course they did. He's an 18-year-old carrying a Glock to school. You think that's okay?
No, well, not talking like that. No, I don't. But 18, he's legal to carry a handgun, right?
No,
21.
21. He can't.
21. Okay, yeah,
handgun.
right. Long rifle. So,
And
it's
he's
been a while
talking
since I worried about that rule.
Ross, you're talking about a high school student carrying a gun now. We're not talking about teachers. We're talking about high school students carrying guns to protect themselves on campus.
Yeah, I don't think it's cool. But if he's constitutionally allowed to carry a gun, Kevin, I just don't.
No, you have to be 21 to be constitutional.
Yeah, right. I understand that. Yeah. Brain fart. I'm allowed those.
All right. 18. Again, you're open carry a rifle. That's not allowed on school grounds either. Now, we went to Sherwood, and there were kids that had guns in their truck, and I remember in the first parking lot back in the day.
All the time.
I remember that. All right. We're going to wrap this up. I didn't realize it went so long. Clover, I know you got a show coming up. Forgive me. I'm going to do this. This is a good one.
We go late all the time on Thursday. Not a big deal, bro.
So, man, I hate to do this, but I don't hate to do this. It's just an interesting way to end the show. The video speaks for itself. We'll just watch it and then have a conversation. Sorry.
65 shots in 15 seconds. The dramatic police shootout in San Francisco was caught on camera. Watch. The chaotic scene unfolding after a man wanted for homicide opened fire on officers from inside an RV. No one was hurt. The suspect was taken into custody 2 hours later.
I'm going to say that again.
So 65 shots and no one was
No
hit?
hits.
Into an RV. Hold on, let me mute it. Sorry. Into an RV.
And the next thing is, it took them 2 hours to apprehend the guy. After that, they're standing right there. What's wrong with this?
I want to point out to you the lack of situational awareness performed by the 65 shooter, the people shooting the 65 rounds. I don't know if you noticed that, but literally 3 guys tripped over each other and fell to the ground. So,
Get shot.
These
guys falling all over themselves.
It's unbelievable.
Oh my God.
I'm surprised there were no NDs into the ground or.
That guy goes down right there. This guy goes down right here. He's pointing his gun that way.
I think he's still shooting as he's falling too.
Yeah, they keep firing. Now that guy's down. Behind him.
This is like something off the movie Police Academy when we were kids.
The guy that's down on his side, he's like, I'm not going to get back to a stable position. Fuck it. I'm just going to shoot from here. And they just unload into the back of an RV, into an arm, again, versus an armed guy. 65 rounds, 15 seconds. San Francisco.
Would you be willing to call that negligence? I mean, malpractice?
Yeah. Someone's losing
I'm saying you strip all 3 of those people with their badges, to be honest with you. I mean,
I think there were like 6 people shooting, honestly.
Yeah, you got to think. I mean, what if he had hostages in there, or anything?
Well, what about the neighbors? I mean, these guys are shooting from the ground. I mean, they're not aiming properly. They're shooting whatever's behind that trailer.
I mean, do we know all 65 rounds went into the RV? I mean, like, they can be putting rounds out of buildings.
Let me see if I can get any data on that for you.
It's a miracle no one was shot during that.
Can I assume that this video is going to be played at every police academy in every state from now on of what not to do? I mean, can we all agree on that?
Oh. The video was released at a town hall meeting about the shooting where residents expressed concerns about the number of homeless encampments in the area. Authorities say they are working to move people into housing. They might have killed some homeless people and denied it. I'm going to throw that out there. I'm just kidding.
That's so wrong.
Jeez. This guy that they were after had been charged with murder, carjacking, and 8 counts of attempted murder. So I guess he was firing at 8 police officers.
Oof.
Anyway.
It's surprising bystanders weren't hit, like people a mile away at those angles.
True. All right, that wraps everything up for tonight. We did not come up with the solutions on how to fix things.
Damn it.
Tried. And we will continue to try.
2 hours, dude.
It was a great discussion, though. I'll give you that.
I don't know. I'll have to go back and watch it. I don't remember. I just remember I got pissed and Ross got pissed.
Can I just say that I would love to be
I was probably home giggling.
Can I just say I'd love to be at y'all's family reunion? I mean, I'm just saying.
You know, you did come full circle a little bit because we started out talking about, you know, the deputies or whatever, and then ended up on this. And it begs the question, and certainly, you know, the show's in and don't want to get down this rabbit hole, but, you know, it begs the question of something we got to think about is the culture, you know, the caliber, no pun intended, of law enforcement changed over the years.
The training that's necessary, I think, needs to be stepped up for all law enforcement and all general population. I just think the acceptance of danger in the world needs to be more common. I think, you know, people go to church every Sunday and they talk about good and evil all the time, yet it's almost, you know, a shock when something bad happens. Something to be considered. Like I said, we don't have the answers. Let me make sure I didn't miss anything here that was super important. Yeah, I think so. I think I got everything. And we didn't have to talk about dicks tonight.
Oh God.
Leave it on that. Appreciate everybody.
Thank God, because I'm all PG, so I wouldn't have been able to sit in on that one.
Appreciate everybody tuning in tonight. Thanks to Frank and everybody that has supported us along the way. You can help us now. Hook yourself up at the same time. Head on over to funkertactical.com. Get yourself a patch, a hat, something cool. Brian, thanks, dude. Appreciate you being here the whole time. It was a long one. Clover, appreciate it. Everybody go check out Clover Tack. He's got a show coming up in just a little bit. It's Clover Tack on YouTube.
Enjoyed it.
All right. And Eric.
Thanks for having me, man.
As always. Appreciate it, man. We'll talk to you next time.
Sounds good.
Ghost, people can check you out on Ghost Tactical over on YouTube and gun channels, correct?
And YouTube and Facebook and all that. But yeah, thanks for having me. And I really enjoy the discussion. I like when they get heated, but that means the good stuff's coming out.
Sometimes. And you can come to the next family thing. You're welcome to come down to Florida. It'll be in Florida.
We always have a good time.
It's true. Googler. Thanks, dude.
Yep. No problem.
Appreciate it. Ross, I love you.
Likewise, brother.
But you're wrong.
I love the conversations. As much as I hate getting hot, I do love the conversations, man. And I feel bad sometimes because I it's not a hard line. It's just a refusal to do things that aren't going to help. And hey, my opinion,
you're allowed to have your opinion. You're allowed to stand on your convictions. You're allowed to have your set of things. Because if we were all just sitting here bobbing our head saying yes, 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 you know, then you're in that situation where the great leader has taken over, and you look. And
the fact of the matter is I always got all you guys' back. I know y'all know it. I know you got mine.
Yep,
it's fair.
You got it. Appreciate everybody tuning in. A lot of viewers popping in and out tonight. I did not get on the YouTube chat. So, Ross, you want to shout anybody there real quick?
Anybody? Oh, man, there are so many. But, yeah, so many. Thank you guys so much, man. You guys make the chat really something fun to watch. So,
all right, 2 hours flat. We'll talk to you next time, next Thursday night, 9 o'clock. Till then, appreciate you watching. Peace. And again, in the memory of all the kids and the teachers that lost their lives here in Parkland. Again, we do this to have discussions to make a change in the world for the better in many different ways. Until then, see you next week. Peace.